vessel, like a towing vessel or a fishing vessel, indicates the direction of travel. If you know, you're watching the guy go this way, you're seeing a red light, you're looking at his port side. And it determines who's to stand on or give way, like we were talking about earlier. You know, if you're looking at the guy's port light, his red light, and you know that you've got to give way, you got to duck in, get behind him. If you're looking at his starboard light, you're the stand-on vessel. All right. And most smaller boats have what they call a combination lantern up forward. It's got both the red and green light in one lantern. And then a stern light. And a masthead. Depending on the size of the boat, whether or not that's required or not. In a sailing vessel, you don't need a masthead light. But you do need an anchor light when you're anchored with a 360-degree white light. If you look at the degrees here and add these two together, you're going to see that's a 360 light anyway. In most smaller vessels, they're required to have an all-around white light, but they do, and that's all for little stuff like small sailboats, rowboats, and that kind of thing. Bigger vessels are required to have two masthead lights, and I'm sure they're going to show us that here in a few minutes. You can either have the combination light like the boat on the right, or the separate lights like the one on the left. What I was talking about earlier, where you don't really have to have the running lights, but I think if you're going to operate much at night, it's worth your while to have them out there.
Wait, did that line at the bottom say sailboats and paddle boats less than 23 feet?
Yeah.
You don't like kayaks or something, does it?
No. That's a different category.
Okay.
Personal flotation. You know, this is we're talking.
Fishing boat or something.
Well,
No, it's a kayak would be paddle boat.
but you don't have to have you don't have to have running lights on a
No,
kayak.
flashlight down the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
just talking about
display.
that note at the bottom.
Yeah. Anything, canoe or kayak,
Yeah.
you can't have a flashlight. Try it up on
But most boats, you know, either 16, 18 footers, whatever, the runabouts and the small sailboats come from the factory with running lights anyway. If it's homemade or an older vessel, then you might not. I had a 19-foot sailboat that didn't have running lights on it. That's 20 meters, 65.6 feet.
20 meters.
That's sailboats. Got that optional tri-colored light at the top of the mast. You got your port and starboard and stern light all in one lantern. 39.4 feet is 12 meters. A lot of the rules of what you have to carry and everything changed at that 12-meter point. You don't have to have a bell until you get to that point. You don't have to carry a copy of the rules of the road. A lot of other things change at that 12-meter breakover. There's a rowboat and a little sailboat with a flashlight. You're supposed to illuminate yourself to avoid, in time enough to avoid collision. I think 23 feet 7 meters. Okay. Green over white trawling at night, red over white fishing at night. Now, when we're talking about fishing, I want to reiterate that we're not talking about rods and reels and dragging lures and trolling. We're talking about dragging nets and trawls and long liners. And those long liners, they got hooks every couple of feet, and they may have 10,000 feet of line out behind the boat, you know. fishing for tuna or whatever. You're not gonna see much of that around here, but there are some commercial fishing operations still going around here. Here's diver flag. This is another one you gotta be very careful about. This you will see around here. And then the right lights over there, the vessels and dredging or other underwater maneuvers display 3 all around, like red over white over red. It's also this signal for restricting the ability to maneuver, which you'll see on the Coast Guard buoy tender. Here's our danger guy here. The barge is lit just like an ordinary vessel would be. That's what confuses people. What's important here is these yellow towing lights over your stern light and your white lights and the red light, the white, red over on the mast. In addition to your masthead, you've got another white light and a red light here, and a yellow light back here. So that indicates that that vessel is towing with a tow less than 600 feet. And I believe that 650 feet is measured from the stern of this vessel to the stern of the vessel being towed. Now, you don't have to have an anchor light lit if you're in a designated anchorage, which will be will be on the chart that way, right, guys?
If you're like if you're in Fish Creek and you're in the buoys or boats,
Tied to a mooring buoy or anchored.
An anchor in there without a light.
They're shown on the chart too, right, Pat?
I'm not exactly sure if we
Okay.
have resolution on it to show it.
Ben, you wouldn't have to have your lights on if you stayed there?
No, I can't, right, because the boats on that are on their permanent moorings and stuff.
Yeah.
They have
If
some
it's a
lights.
fixed, if it's a mooring buoy search all the time, or an area that's designated as an anchorage, then you do not have to have your anchor light on. But any other time you do, it's a 360-degree white light. Law enforcement, everybody knows this was blue light.
In a slip, you don't have to have a white light on. But if you're outside of the marina, you're in that beach area and you happen to drop an anchor, you better damn well have a white light on. Because you're not in a.
The least of your worries is DNR. Getting run over is the primary concern. Yeah, blue light's the same as police cars on the highway, Coast Guard, DNR, Sheriff's Department on the water. This is one that I have not seen much of, but where they use a flash or a strobe white light as a way of getting attention when you're in distress. It's in the book, but it's not something I personally observed.
Well, Mac, that new flare that everybody's selling that replaces flares, that's a flashing strobe.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It flashes Morse SOS.
Correct.
And it's the first time a non-chemical flare has been approved for the Coast Guard to use that. And they're sort of pricey right now. They're about 90 bucks. Excuse me. But a set of flares runs you about 30 bucks, right? And they expire in 3 years. So it won't take you many boating seasons to pay for this thing. And all you got to do is change the batteries in it every year. Because flares, if you're not aware of it, if you've got any expired flares on your boat or around your house, you can bring them here and turn them into John, because in June is when the picnic is, right? They'll have a flare sighted right over this little, on the other side of the marina. They get permission from the Coast Guard for a specific window of time, and they let people shoot off the flares that they have expired. And it's a good experience, and it's sort of fun. You know, it's like 4th of July. And but what's really interesting, I found, some of these flares that expired years ago fired just fine. Some of them that were barely out of date, but you know, and that was it. You know, a lot of it has to do with how they're manufactured, I suppose, and how much moisture they've been exposed to via humidity and stored in a wet spot in the villages or whatever. Because those chemicals are dramatically affected by moisture and humidity. Yeah, this is the point I was making earlier. About knowing what they look like can save your life. Back to the, let's go back to that tug picture, yeah. Yeah, we used to call it at sea the law of gross tonnage. Big guys always have the right of way, no matter what the rules say. Because you're going to lose if you tangle with them. Here's the bay shapes I was telling you about. Now, this is what every sailboat should be flying when they're running their motor and got their sailboat up. It's a cone with the apex downward. And we see a lot of that on Wednesday nights. If you ever seen one,
Nope.
I saw one in a guy's forecastle while he says gear locker on a boat when I did a recreational boating inspection once, but I've never seen one run up in the rigging.
Why would you do that?
Well, to let the other boaters know that they don't have to give you any deference, because you're a power boater. When you got your sails and your engine on, you've got no, you're not any more vulnerable than the next guy, so you have to play with the same rules that the power boater does if you're running both sail and power. Whereas if you're only sailing on your sails and your motor's turned off, he has to stay out of your way. All power boaters have to stay out of the way of a sailboat. So it's a matter of playing fair by the rules.
There's no other reason to have the motor going while you're sailing, right?
Well, you do it when you first put your sails up, so you can get them up, because you got to go into the wind to raise your sail.
Okay.
You're often motor sailing if you're
Yeah.
trying to make
Sure.
a schedule, get somewhere. at a
Yeah,
certain
sure.
time.
Yeah.
But that lets the boost. The other racers can see it. Well,
This is a little quiz here. So what are we looking at here?
Boat with the left side.
Head on.
Head on.
There you go. You're right.
Powerboat, head on. All right, now what are we looking at?
Starboard side.
Yep, powerboat crossing left to right. You're looking at the starboard side. There's his green running light and his masthead. Okay. Okay, now what is that? What's those white lights?
Head on.
Sailboat, head on. Smaller sailboats don't have to have it. Okay? Sailboat, port side. Sailboat, starboard side. Boat going away, power her sail or boat at anchor. It's hard, there's no way to tell for sure with that single white light.
We'll find out soon.
If you gain on him. Okay? We talked about this just a little while ago, about what, this is a working boat. What have we got? We got green over white. Trawler. Fishing is red over white.
Fishing.
Wicked tuna.
Tugboat, towing a barge. This first green light, oops, I'm sorry. Yeah. Go all the way back there.
It's supposed to be yellow layout.
No, his yellow light's on his stern. You're looking at his starboard side. There's the starboard side light for the towboat, and here's the starboard light for the barge. See? It's the same configuration. You're not going to see this unless you're back here. Short blast, 1 second. Prolonged blast, 4.6. We talked about that earlier. Okay. This is inland rules. I intend to pass you on my port side. Like I said, in international rules, you just make the sound signal and go ahead and take the action. On inland rules, you have to wait for concurrence. When you back out of your slip, you're supposed to sound 3 short blasts.
You are?
Most people don't.
You ever seen never heard any?
This is inland only, departing from the dock. This is a change of status signal. That's what we talked about earlier, one prolonged bash. Or it's also the blind bend signal. When you're in a bend in a channel or a river, you make that sound so that anybody on the other side of that bend knows that traffic's approaching. Five or more short blasts, Marcia.
Don't count them, just blast them.
That's it. Keep whacking it. All right, you ready for the loud signals here? I thought I was going to get another signal, but I guess not. Okay. If he doesn't agree, what's he supposed to sound?
Short ones.
5 or more short blasts.
If they're getting a road rage, flares start flying.
Okay. Remember we talked about making way? That's when you're actually moving through the water. Not making way, you're not moored, anchored, or aground, but you're just drifting. You're not, don't have your propulsion, your propeller turning, or your sails up, so you're not making way. Big vessels have to carry not only a whistle and a bell, but a gong also. These are the guys you really want to stay out of the way of, not under command and the restricted ability to maneuver. Okay. Any more questions?
As a Coast Guard captain, you probably drove a lot of boats, eh?
No more ships and boats, but
Like you said you were in the Navy for,
no, Coast Guard all the time.
oh,
40 years, 12 years enlisted, 28 years as an officer. I was fortunate enough to have 5 commands, 3 ships and 2 shore units, including this one right over here next door. I was a skipper over at Marinette-Menominee from 2002 to 2004. That's how I wound up here. I grew up in Georgia, and everybody, all my friends down there say, "What in the hell are you doing in Michigan?" It's cold up there, boy. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, thank you for reminding me, Pat. I'm not doing so good here. Okay, it's very important you do the reviews and the sample questions at the end of each chapter, because that will help you immensely with the final exam. So make sure you do that. Read the chapters for next week for the guys. What do we got next week? I don't have a schedule up here.
Thursday, electronics and communications.
Yeah.
And the answers to the questions at the end of the reviews, the answers are in the back of your book.
Yeah, so you can check yourself.
Check.
Make sure you got the answers correct, because it's, in order to get credit for the course, you have to pass the final. So, and it's not that difficult. It's common sense stuff. If you paid attention in class and read the material, and especially if you do these reviews and sample questions, you shouldn't have any trouble at all with the final. We have a pretty high percentage of completion in our previous classes, and I'm sure you guys are just as smart as all those folks are.
Is it open book?
No. No, Marcia.
Is it chapter 1 through section A?
Who's got the schedule? Because I don't.
I do.
Okay, we can.
What do you need to know?
He wants to know about, where do you want these charts by?
I'll put them back in.
All right.
Thursday night is chapters 3 and 4, emergencies, communications, and personal watercraft.
All you guys that want to go wave riding, that's a good one to pay attention to.
I'm getting anxiety already.
I'd like to thank everybody for your attention.